Taoiseach, speaking on the radio yesterday morning, you described questions regarding the ownership of the new National Maternity Hospital as a red herring. Taoiseach, that's a very unfair characterisation of very genuine concerns grounded in decades of women's experiences of healthcare in this state. And your dismissal of these concerns is particularly disappointing, given that your comments preempt Oireachtas' examination of the government proposal. Why bother, Taoiseach, allowing for scrutiny of the proposals at all if you present the current deal as a fait accompli and say that the government will press ahead with the plan regardless of the outcome of Oireachtas' deliberations? That's the wrong way to deal with this issue, Taoiseach. The government proposes to invest between €800 million and €1 billion of taxpayers' money in the building of a new and much-needed national maternity hospital. It simply makes sense that the land on which this hospital is to be built is owned by the state. That means a very clean transaction whereby the land is transferred directly to the state. That was the original plan. So why now instead do we get this convoluted, messy ownership structure? I think the answer to that question is all about the financial power of the land. It's about the St Vincent's Healthcare Group retaining control of the land so it can use the value of it as leverage for future financial transactions. So it's about private interest of this group trumping the public good and a government that is willing to let this happen. And you can talk all day about the land costing only a tenner a year, but what you don't say is that the St Vincent's Health Group retains the right to impose a rent of €850,000 a year if there is a dispute about the operation of the hospital in the future. And that, Taoiseach, gives the private landlord very significant leverage and control, and it most certainly does not amount to public ownership, as you have claimed. Genuine concerns have also been expressed about the lack of clarity regarding the definition of clinical appropriateness in the legal documents. And while the Minister says that he has legal guarantees, it will be, remembered, judges and not politicians who will adjudicate any potential dispute and any legal interpretation of this. So for this and other reasons, the ownership of this site is not a red herring, Taoiseach. Everybody wants this new hospital and we want it built quickly, but we need to get it right. Will you, along with the Taoiseach and the Minister for Health, now get around the table with St Vincent's Healthcare Group and convince them to transfer the land directly to the state, as was the original plan and the original commitment from the Sisters of Charity?
Taoiseach, please.
The one thing that undermines public debate on this issue is honesty of approach. I genuinely say we need honesty and we need a full focus on the facts. And we shouldn't play politics with this because it's too important. It's too important for women's health. It's too important for premature babies that will be born into the future and who need a first-class neonatal facility. And that's what the new hospital will do. It will go from 35 neonatal beds to 50. You won't have the same confinement as we have in the current hospital. The current hospital isn't fit for purpose. Since 2013, this has been mooted. We're now 2022, nearly 9 years later, and you want to delay it another few years and don't seem to want to get what is a modern maternity hospital built. And it'll take some years yet to get it built once we get sanction. But honesty is important in debate, and for you to come in and suggest that a 300-year lease at a nominal rate of €10 a year is somehow not ownership is being dishonest. I have to be clear about that. I don't like saying this. But there's only so much of nonsense can be accommodated here in respect of the ownership question. The ownership is not an issue here. And if you don't listen to me, that's fine. But listen to the senior midwives of the hospital, who've asked all politicians, government and opposition, to listen to the clinicians in the hospital. And I have the letter here from the senior midwives at the National Maternity Hospital. who are very clear that future service users require and deserve state-of-the-art infrastructure and facilities, and we urge all political parties in government and opposition to listen to the clinical staff delivering the service and to approve this project without further delay. I mean, 300 years at a tenner a year, and you mentioned the condition. The condition is they have to build a maternity hospital, essentially. And if they but if that's what we're all about, building a maternity hospital. What other business have the HSE doing if they're not going to build a maternity hospital here or facilitate the construction of a maternity hospital with O'Neill? So let's be honest, it's €10 for 300 years. That is the deal. It's leasehold. I'm pleading for people to at least read the documentation, not try and distort it. I'm not saying you've distorted the documentation, but quite a lot have now. And what you come up with now is, convoluted this and convoluted that. But the bottom line is this: it's not our land, never was our land. We now have a gift of the land, essentially, 300 years at a tenner a year. That is the reality. It is the truth, what I'm saying. But for politics and for fighting other battles, there are other battles being fought here through this hospital issue. But I'm just concerned and focused entirely on women and premature babies that will be born into the future. They need the best healthcare we can give them, and this is the best opportunity we can take now to give them that.
Deputy McDonald.
Well, let's have facts and honesty then, shall we? Holles Street is certainly not fit for purpose, and it's not fit for purpose, Taoiseach, because of underinvestment by government after government after government. And by the way, it's even worse than just that. It's not just Holles Street, because the Rotunda and all of our maternity services are similarly under pressure, and similarly government after government after government look the other way. And what makes it even worse again is that government after government in the history of this state colluded with religious dogma to deny us as women what we were entitled to by the way of healthcare. So when we raise these questions, legitimate, well-founded questions, in a spirit of honesty, we do that born of bitter experience and a determination that that will never happen again.
It is ownership by the state of this hospital, and you just refuse to accept that and are creating an issue that does not merit the prioritisation that you've given it in the context of this debate. Because a 300-year lease at €10 a year is ownership by any other name. That is a fact. And anybody who understands anything about property law knows that.